5 of Left Turns, Right Hooks. I'm Dan Lindsay. Again, I have Tyler with me. Hope you guys aren't sick of us. And if you are, too bad. But we'll hopefully keep this one a little more short and sweet. We like to go off forever on tangents, and we've been talking about John Cena for a lot. But we wanted to do another episode just talk about the Raw debut on Netflix. And considering that we've been booking John Cena's final year, it was officially announced John Cena will be at that Raw debut on Netflix. But we have some other topics that we kind of wanted to, hit quickly. 4 different matches have been announced. We're going to talk about three that are really important to us, we feel. And this couple little fun stuff at the end here. But episode number 5, Tyler, you are back with me. Really appreciate it. I'm super excited for Raw on Netflix. I mean, I think they even just dropped some, like special collections today. As we the day we record for this, they've dropped some collections of stuff that I can't wait to check out.
For sure, and thanks for having me, Dan. I mean, I feel like I speak for the majority of the WWE universe where I say I haven't been this excited for a Raw in a long, long time. I think that this show is going to be from top to bottom absolutely banana sandwich. Like, it's going to be crazy. I don't think there's going to be a single second where we're not glued to our screens because you never know who's going to show up. You never know what's going to happen. Every single segment is going to be top tier, legends, newcomers, NXT call-ups. Who the heck knows? Everything in between. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait. Chaos is going to ensue. Raw is supposed to go to 3 hours now. That's one thing I'm very curious to see what happens, how they kind of do the 3 hours. They don't have to care about overrun. They can go 4 hours. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this first episode does go 4 hours. Some weeks might only go 2:45. Some might go 3 hours, 10 seconds, whatever. But they don't have to worry about overrun. I think they're going to still kind of have some kind of breaks, like commercial breaks, but not in like the true sense, like where you used to seeing on network TV or on cable with SmackDown or Raw. So I'm just curious, just because as a history of that, it's just like how they just roll out that for the product.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah. So let's get right into it. We're gonna give a few predictions here. Got 3 matches. First one on the docket: Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, once again. And as of a few days ago, this is going to be a last woman standing match. This should be a great match. And so this will be in build as the last time these two are going to meet. Um, what do you think? Do you think Liv's going to retain, or do you think Rhea gets her title back?
I think Liv should retain, given what they've talked about in terms of like what you said. This is the last time they're ever going to meet. And one of the things that I can't stand about wrestling, but WWE more so, is when you have a champion that has not even a short title reign, because short title reign I can kind of understand depending on the circumstance you going in this direction, but a really long title reign where the majority of their stories are like, this title means more than anything to me and I must keep it and it's my precious and I'm precious, like, and then they lose it and then they just don't ever go after it again. Like, that makes me so mad when that happens. Like, nothing makes me more mad than when Kofi Kingston held the title for 6 months, lost in 8 seconds to Brock Lesnar, and then was immediately out the next show flipping pancakes and smiling and never even mentioned that he was champion for 6 months.
Yep. Right, just
never
right back
got a
in the New
rematch.
Day. Yep.
And it was like, dude, why? Like, it made a lot of people, not just me, but it made a lot of people really, really upset. And so for Liv to lose to Rhea here, if truly they meant this was the last time that they're ever going to face each other, that just means that Liv won't get a rematch, and that's not okay to me. So Liv should win, but she won't. I think that they just want to put this title back on Rhea, and I don't blame them. Rhea Ripley is the best thing. I know that she's been getting some hate online recently that she's like overshown or whatever. She's overshown in your mind, that's fine, but in my mind, she's the best women's wrestler to come along in a long, long time. Obviously, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, previous Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, Bayley, the 4 horsewomen.
Yep.
In that 8 to 10 years ago were the biggest thing to ever happen to wrestling. Rhea Ripley is the new biggest thing to ever happen to women's wrestling.
100%.
And so to me, I don't care if she's overshown. She deserves to be. She's amazing. And by the way, guys, for those of you who aren't aware, she's like 27. She's so young. She's so young. She's got such a long prime and career ahead of her. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they just want to put this back on her. I think they want to transition her to not necessarily a bigger money match, because that's insulting to Liv, and I don't mean that like that, but like a Charlotte or a Bianca Belair or an Io Sky or somebody in that kind of realm that's going to be a bigger draw at this point than Liv. And again, I don't mean that in an insulting way, but when Liv Morgan's on the docket, there's some Liv Morgan stands out there that I'm sure are going to want to blow my head off with a shotgun right now. But regardless of that, I think, like, especially like Charlotte, she's going to come back eventually here. I think that's probably where you go with it. But, we'll see. So my prediction is I think Liv should win. And so if she does win, cool, but I don't think she will. I think that the WWE just wants to put it back on Rhea.
Gotcha. I'm gonna go with Liv here. I think I'm with you. She should retain. I think she will retain. I think we're looking at an era. They referenced the transfer window thing couple weeks ago. I think on both brands. We haven't really heard that since, but I think that like at least kind of sets us up for the possibility that we're going to see superstars move, and it's not going to be a big deal because we've had the transfer window being announced or whatever. And I think this will be one of those. I think the transfer window is going to affect the competitors here. So that's why I think that's another factor into why Liv retains. Last woman standing. That obviously opens the opportunity for Raquel to be involved more again, without DQ and stuff like that. We've seen multiple competitors, Roman being one of the biggest ones to take advantage of those no DQ type of rules. So I think she take advantage of that. Dom's probably hanging from his ankle from something again, whatever, to distract or whatever, and we'll let that love story continue. And I do think Liv retains. And then I wouldn't be surprised to see Rhea maybe move to SmackDown. And I think that's part of the reason that why Liv might retain, because I think she could be a superstar that gives moves to SmackDown. Because we don't know who's gonna move where. Obviously, I don't think they've announced that. I wouldn't be surprised if the bigger stars, to your casual fans, of the majority of them end up on Raw, and a bunch of guys that a bunch of wrestlers that we still consider stars, but maybe the general public, this is like kind of like Liv. Like Liv is a star. She's done well in this run with getting taking away Dom, taking away the title, etc. Getting the revenge tour. It's been great. Really good for her character. But where kind of like you said, it's like she's not necessarily like superstar. So I could see like Rhea being or maybe Liv gets pushed off SmackDown. Who knows? All the Judgment Day does. But I wouldn't be surprised if one of these two parties gets moved to SmackDown, as some rosters do get kind of reshuffled. But yeah, I feel Liv retains here. Probably the biggest match on the card, maybe I want to kind of talk about next. We had a fiery promo between these two Monday night. Seth Rollins, CM Punk. Oh my word. I have a few questions for you here before we even get to our pick. My first question for you. To you, does it matter who wins this match?
Not necessarily. I think it just depends on where the story winds up going. I think if let me put it. Let me give some caveats here. If this is the only time they have a match, which I hope it isn't, but if it's the only match they have, it does matter who wins. If it's not the only time they ever have a match, then no, it does not matter who wins, because it's whoever wins the last match that wins the feud. Mm-hmm. Typically, right? Unless it's just a sweep. The other person won 2 and then they won. Because, like, for instance, another CM Punk feud that happened in AEW, MJF. MJF won the first 2 matches out of the 3, but Punk won the last one. And so Punk won the feud, even though he kind of lost he lost more matches in there than he won. But regardless, I would think that if it's just the one match, I would hope you have Punk win because Punk is the bigger draw. Punk needs a world title shot before he goes, and the only way to do that is if he beats guys like Drew and guys like Seth to get there.
Right.
So Seth does not need to bounce back to the world title picture right now. Seth could just kind of be your Shawn Michaels, where he's bouncing around and facing whoever needs to be faced and have a credible opponent for anybody else. And then eventually, when it's his time again, he can go back. But right now, I think if it's just the one, I think Punk should win. But if there's more than one match that happens, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel I kind of get the
Okay.
feeling that this is gonna be the only match for now. I don't think this is gonna be um I don't think they can't do Punk and Drew again. They can't do what they did there again by having a series
Right.
of three matches back to back to back. Now, will we still get two or three matches between these two? I think we will somewhere. Um, but I feel like this is we're on Netflix. We need a great draw. This is but as hot of a feud as any feud that we have going on right now that hasn't been tied off yet.
Sure.
Let's have these two go at it, but not necessarily end it. End it if we can never get back to it, but leave it open ended enough to where we want to see this again. So I think we get a
Yeah.
big tease that we'll get it again, but so to me, I don't think it matters. But I'm kind of basing that off of, we'll eventually get these two again. But I do kind of like I like what you're saying about Punk. He kind of almost needs to win because how many more years do we get him? Do we get him another year, another 2 years? We're not probably gonna go 4 or 5 years, but that window's a lot shorter for him to where Seth is gonna likely, not saying that he will, but the longevity is a lot greater for Seth than Punk. So
Sure.
I think I'm leaning there too, leaning that too. Do you? So and that kind of leads me to the next question between these guys. Um, how many matches do you think we could see between these guys? Whether it's back to back, whether they're like consecutive, like whether it's like just a feud that goes for a few months, or we revisit this again at some point. Do you think there's a lot of matches between these two?
No, I think that this is a three-match rivalry for sure. I think this is similar to what you had with Drew. You were telling two congruent stories at the same time. You were telling Punk and Seth, and you were telling Punk and Drew. Punk and Drew had three matches, as it should have gotten, and I think Punk and Seth is going to have three matches. So for me, I don't know. WWE is so much better at the timeline of things than I am, so I feel like this is going to go past WrestleMania with Seth. I don't even think it's going to end at WrestleMania. I think it's literally going to go past it, barring one of the two winning a world title before then, which is pretty unlikely, I would say, given where we're at right now. But it could happen.
Hmm. Hmm.
Punk could win the Elimination Chamber for the world title for, I guess, or Seth could do it, and that'll be it. I don't know. But it's just, I think it's a little unlikely. So I think this is something that's going to go past WrestleMania into like SummerSlam of next year, even. And I think it's going to be a three-match deal, and it's just going to be a lot of stuff in between where it's a match, they separate, they come back together, they have another match, they separate, they come back together.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of you. Like, this is ridiculous.
I wholeheartedly agree there. I think we'll get they'll touch a few times. I think we'll see this match, might see him in the chamber, and then we'll get another one-on-one match, again some point to where you know obviously last year it's been decently documented that it seemed like this was a direction they were going to go, Seth and Punk for WrestleMania, one of the main events, until Punk unfortunately got hurt.
Yeah.
But I mean the fact that that was to me, it's amazing that that idea was there. They pivoted to what we got with Punk and Drew, and we can revisit this so easily to where
Yep.
I'm wholeheartedly agree with you. I could see this kind of being, you know, we get three true matches with them, but other people are involved again, or some of them are multi-man matches. But like three true single one-on-one matches, I agree. But they can't just. I don't want them to do like they did with Punk and Drew of just like PLE one-on-one, one-on-one, one-on-one. This deserves kind of a bigger story. But I mean, So I definitely hope we get more matches. Number one contenderships. Stuff on the line for both of them. Um, you know, and at the end of it, one of them holding the title, the other pursuing the person for the title, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Is
for
what I'm
sure.
kind of hoping. So,
And that could be a way to go. Yeah, this match, and then the next time they fight, it's for the number one contendership. Next time they fight is for the title because one of them won it.
mhm.
That's a perfectly reasonable thing to think. Yeah, I'd get behind that.
Yeah. So at the end of it, who do you actually pick for January 6th between these two?
I am going neither. I think there's going to be some shenanigans. There's going to be some kind of interference, DQ, something. Because I think this match is just going to be riddled with craziness. And neither man is a true heel right now. Like
Mhm.
Seth just is a good guy, but just really doesn't like CM Punk. And obviously CM Punk's not a bad guy because he's super duper popular.
Yeah, he is.
So it's not like you're gonna have like bad guys come in on behalf of one of them over the other unless it's Drew. But please no. Please no. Please just let Drew do something else.
Yeah. Not
Um,
not so fresh after the rivalry. Yeah, yeah.
right. So, I think it's gonna be some kind of like group attack where like they're jumped by some group. I don't know. Like who the heck knows? Um, outsider's shot of an idea. Penta turns the LWO heel and attacks everybody, and you get heel Penta facing babyface Ray as like the first maybe outsider shot. I don't know. Probably not. That's pretty unlikely. But hey, your boy can dream, and I don't know what it's gonna be, but I feel like there's something gonna go down. But if I had to, okay, there's not gonna be shenanigans. Who's the winner? I'm going CM Punk.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. There's just to me, there's not a lot of unknown, but it's so much unknown with these two, and I can't
Mhm.
wait for it. It seems perfect, so perfect for a main event. Um, don't know if it will be. Obviously, we don't know that yet as of this record, and we probably won't know
Right.
until the night of. But it seems so right for a main event.
I
Um,
have heard that it's gonna be the main event.
yeah,
I'm not sure if it's official or not, but I've heard that apparently it's going to be.
gotcha, gotcha. I mean, I hope it is. And I think a lot of that depends on what we're going to talk about in a second here. But I hope it is. But I'm with you. I think for if especially if this is one night only, I'm definitely going CM Punk here. It's he stands to benefit from the win a lot more than Seth would. A loss wouldn't hurt either of them, but um, you know, Punk can do a lot more. With that and who knows what we get set up, and it's like, this is it's January 6th. We haven't done Rumble yet. We haven't done Chamber yet. Have no idea what WrestleMania is going to look like. We have some, obviously some speculation, but
Right.
man, this is going to be Rumble, SummerSlam level, even WrestleMania level, as some people said. That's the whole episode, and man, this is our main event. Thank you, WWE.
Oh yeah, for sure. The show's gonna be crazy, and you know, I hope this is the main event also, um, because it's two of the freaking best in ring workers on the planet. You've got I know that they're gonna try to keep the show around 3 hours. That's what I've heard, but it's Netflix, so you technically don't have to. You can just go as long as you need to go.
I'm calling right
Like,
now,
give
4
these
hours.
guys
I'm calling
30
4
minutes,
hours.
man.
Mhm.
Yeah, give them 30 minutes. Like, just have them go crazy for, as long as they can hack it.
Yep.
Yeah, oh, there's so
No, I
much
mean,
on this show
two
that
of the
I'm
best
excited about.
workers, and I mean, you have followed WWE a lot longer than I have, and especially with CM Punk. Um, do you see a lot of similarities between, I mean, how these two carry themselves as far as like putting the WWE on their back a little bit, or do you think they're pretty different? But I don't know. I feel like they're like kind of, the promo from Monday was very much of um Punk was like, I used to be you, and Seth was like, you're never me, there's only been me, kind of thing. But I feel like
Yeah,
there's some interesting weavings where it's like there are some similar areas I feel to these two wrestlers.
sure, but short answer is no. I don't see a lot of similarities. Obviously, there are. They're both excellent in-ring workers. They're both great on the microphone. They're both some of the most revolutionary wrestlers for different reasons in the company. Rollins really did a lot of work in terms of work rate and kind of normalizing a little bit more high flying style on WWE television. He normalized that in NXT and on the main roster. He helped to do that and kind of symbolize a new work rate era in the company. He was one of those first guys to do that. But you know, I understand that it was character. It's not necessarily the person. But Seth Rollins also like sucked up to the authority for years
Oh yeah.
and was
Oh
champion
yes.
because Triple H gave him all that stuff. And CM Punk the person and CM Punk the character would never have done that. Never. I
Yep.
mean, there is so much polar opposite. Now, again, I understand that's characters, right? Not necessarily people. But I think the WWE pride that Rollins has, Punk just never had. Punk loves wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And Seth Rollins, I'm sure, also loves wrestling, but he loves the WWE. And there is a difference between WWE and the world of wrestling as a whole.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the biggest difference is Punk loves wrestling more than he loves you, more than he loves me, more than he loves any of the fans, more than he loves anybody who works in the back, more than he loves any other wrestler. He loves wrestling more than anything else on planet Earth other than maybe his wife and his dog.
I was gonna say it's AJ, Larry, wrestling.
Yeah. And it's like
It might,
AJ Larry wrestling and then everything else. Like it's
yeah,
like boop boop
and
boop
honestly, it
nothing.
might be AJ
Yeah.
wrestling Larry.
It might be. Who knows? It might be wrestling over Larry. I don't think so. I think Larry's got a small edge up on there, but
But
no, they are similar in a lot of ways for sure in terms of their willingness to get their hands dirty. They were bad guys at certain points in their careers and tried to make good with certain things. Yes, but I think a lot of they're so different to
yeah,
me. They're
yeah,
different. They do have some similarities, but they're just so different for most of it.
yeah, and I mean that's what made their promo so good on Monday. I feel like, and both know how to toe the line really well. They know where to push it and where to kind of stop. Though there wasn't really much, they didn't really leave anything left to push. They kind of pushed it to the limits on Monday. But
Yeah.
anybody watching this, if you haven't seen the feud in full, um, WWE put on your socials really quickly after the episode, as they've been doing more of recently, which has been great. But I had gotten snippets of it, so I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, and I was like sucked in the whole time. I was like, I want more than 11 minutes. This match better be an hour.
Right.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
could see a second or third match between these two being like an Iron Man match or a Last Man Standing match. I think I'd be ecstatic for something like that between these two guys.
Yeah. We haven't seen an Iron Man match in a long, long time. I think it's hard for me to want to see Punk do that because he is not super young. He can
True.
still go. Don't get me wrong. He's still excellent. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything about that. But Iron Man match is a whole different beast. That is like where prime Kurt Angle, prime Brock Lesnar are going at it for 60 minutes. Like that's hard. It's prime Bret Hart, prime Shawn Michaels. Like that's hard to really kind of follow up. Prime Cena and Orton, right? Two of the greatest of
Hmm.
all time. So that's a hard match for me to imagine Punk doing. However, it's very easy for me to see Rollins doing one. So if you're gonna do it with Rollins, yeah, Punk is a great opponent, and plus a lot of it you could rest. So hopefully Punk would be able to make it through that. I mean, he
Yeah.
went through a 45-minute Hell in a Cell match with Drew, so you know,
Yeah.
just stick it out for another 15 and you'll be there,
But
buddy. But I
that
don't know.
15 is probably brutal. If that last
Oh
15 is
yeah.
probably atrocious.
Oh yeah.
Um, cool. Well, let's shift our focus to one other match. The last match, battle for the Ulafala and the title of Tribal Chief. We get Roman
Yeah.
Reigns and Solo Sikoa, and I have to say, and if I steal any of your thunder on this, I apologize, but I have to say, because I haven't even said this to you, and I hate saying this, but as an observer, really seeing how Solo Sikoa has developed as a character through all of this since WrestleMania, but especially it's almost kind of since Roman came back. Like he's turned something on. He's gotten more fierce, almost better on the mic, which is nice to see. Like I feel like he had to kind of work that up, but I feel like I'm starting to see why people might be on more of Solo's side and his bloodline side just because Solo's characters are being presented pretty well. Now, I'm
Yeah.
an original tribal chief. I should have worn the t-shirt. That was a missed opportunity. I am an original tribal chief, the only tribal chief, Roman Reigns, but I have to say at the same time, the way Solo's been presented the last 2 months, 3 months maybe, has been really, really good. I don't know what you
Sure.
feel about them.
No, I completely agree. I think Solo has really improved. I think that he goes out there every single week with a ton of confidence um, that he didn't have before. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of the beginning of this kind of run was he was never used to going out there and really doing anything. Like
Yep.
he would go out there and he'd stand with his arms folded. He would never talk, and he would just beat up people, or he would lose a match to somebody who was fighting Roman at whatever the next pay per view was, LA Knight, Cody Rhodes, you
Mhm.
name it. And so that was his role. And so now suddenly he's thrust upon, you're the tribal chief. First of all, to follow Roman Reigns, who you just can't, that's impossible. So immediately everybody's going to be like, oh, you think he's better than Roman? Well, let's see. Let's dissect every single little tiny thing that he does, says, looks at, breathes, touches his nose to sneeze. Like, it just, like, like everybody's going to dissect every little thing. And Solo had, even in NXT, he was barely in NXT.
Oh
Like he,
yeah.
he didn't really do much in NXT. So like who knows how much mic work the guy got, how much practice of promos he got. Like we don't know that. But now I think Triple H is really good at just grabbing a hold of people that are struggling on the mic and just reminding them to go out there and be themselves. And I think Solo has now gone out there and has more been himself. Like, hey, you don't have to be this super serious tribal chief every second. Roman was more over when he was goofing around with Sami Zayn
Yeah,
than
he
maybe he
was.
ever was.
Yep.
And he's the tribal chief, this big, scary, indomitable, undefeated tribal chief. And he's saying Usi over and over again, and everybody's cracking up laughing. Like, you don't have to, because that was his character was that. And so he
Mhm.
probably thought, I still have to do that, but that's boring, dumb, and really like it's not original.
Yeah.
And so they were like, dude, just go out and be yourself. Like put some of your personality into it. And then he started doing that. And now everybody's starting to like him more because he's being more of himself. So
Yeah.
yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think Solo's done really, really well the last couple of months. And I know that with our John Cena bookings, I know that Solo and the Bloodline are kind of in a little bit, and so I'm excited to see where it really goes in real life. But I have some ideas myself where I think it should go.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, I'm Solo's been awesome.
Yeah. No, the personality of him is like, whoa, he has that, and it's just the way he talks. Like the right, where it kind of started out there, but yeah, he's kind of that personality has come out the last more in the promos, and they yes they got beat down at Survivor Series in the in the war games. Good grief. They got beat down on that, but I mean, the last couple men that were standing from that, since a couple people got hurt, I mean, it's probably the strongest or three of the strongest four from that group. They just came in, ran roughshod in SmackDown. It's like we don't care what just happened. We're still a force that you can't stop unless you have who you just sent us.
Yeah,
And it's
unless you have the Avengers assemble, you're not stopping Thanos. I got you.
yeah, no, it's I'm it's honestly this is probably the hardest one I've had to think about, and I'm literally thinking about who is to this whole thing still, who to pick while we're talking. So I'm gonna make you pick first, unless you have some other thoughts. But who are you picking for this match between Roman and Solo?
Yeah, it's still Roman. I think Roman is still going to win because we're getting to Rumble season, which means, listen, if you're going to have The Rock start getting involved with things, we're going to have to move it along. Like, we can't just sit on our hands forever and then have The Rock show up the night of WrestleMania and go, I'm fighting people. Like, you can't do that. Although I guess The Rock could do that because he's The Rock. He can do whatever he wants. But we're not going to do that because that's dumb. So I think having Roman win gives you more ammunition to move into WrestleMania with Solo having weaknesses. And I think when The Rock eventually comes back and reveals himself to be the tribal chief, because I'll be really confused if that's not what happens, I think having him be able to come in and like convince Solo that this is the right move to like your bloodline now answers to me because you couldn't get it done. I think that makes the most sense. Yes, I can certainly see the argument of Solo winning and then The Rock coming back and still usurping that power because he's The Rock and he can do what he wants, and Solo having the now credibility to stand up to him down the road, whereas if he loses this, he may not have it. I can understand that argument as well. But I just, again, it's a company thing, and I just think that the company believes more in Roman Reigns than they do in Solo Sikoa at the moment. And I still, even though we've already said Solo's been fantastic the last few months, don't take any of that away from what we've said. I don't blame them that they still believe in Roman more because Roman is just the bigger draw. Roman's the bigger name. And listen, you can't have Roman go undefeated for 58 years and then have him lose every single bleeping match that he's going to be in all year. Like
Yeah.
that's just so disingenuous to every other person that like lost to him. They're like, oh, this guy sucks now. Like, why couldn't we face that guy? Like, this guy's horrible. We can't just do that. So,
Right.
I think Roman's gonna win. And then that's kind of when I don't know if The Rock will come back on the 6th. I don't know if he'll come back like on Raw that day, but he will soon. So whenever that is, there you go.
Yeah, like I said, I'm having I'm just having such a hard time picking this because I feel like a Roman loss would make a possible Rumble victory even sweeter for him. But at the same
That's true.
time,
Yeah.
you don't want to take away from the mystique of him because oh, now I remember my history. Now I remember my history of these of the tag matches because the tag match with Cody, they won that, but then lost. But then they lost the one. No, they lost. Sorry, wow, I can't remember my own history. Should have had these on my notes, but I know it. Like they haven't. Roman and Soul haven't truly gone 1-on-1 yet, but I know as their bloodline versus the other bloodline.
Yeah, Roman and Cody won their match, and then there was a 6-man. It was Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, and Solo versus him and the Usos.
That's right.
And they lost that match.
That's right.
That match they lost.
So so I mean, they've kind of given us a nice back and forth booking, but it's been group versus group or tag team versus tag team. So in a way, I could see a Solo win, to kind of project him up, but still, I'm okay. I'm making my pick. I know I keep waffling here. Make my pick. I'm picking Solo. I feel that you cement him. But my aftermath here, you cement him as a win, but Rock comes out immediately, or not. He comes out immediately and says, "Congrats, Solo. We are still not going to recognize you as the tribal chief." And that decision is made because we are going to get The Rock not only calling him the final boss, but we're going to get him calling himself the High Chief. So kind of, and I'm borrowing this idea from another person, but I like it a lot to where you give Solo the win. Rock comes out as a High Chief, but he's kind of disappointed in both of them. He's like, we were supposed to be united bloodline. It's like it's time for the High Chief to step in, and we go from there. And I think he starts barking orders for both of them. Um, and so we don't get a true tribal chief set just yet, even though Solo won. That's what it was for. And I 100% expect shenanigans too, and that's kind of why I'm kind of leaning with Solo, because I feel at time right now, like um, Jimmy's hurt, so um, Roman really only has Jay, because Punk's not going to come help him. We don't know what Sammy, we don't know if Sammy really cares to help him again. So that's the same, so like he might not even have Jay, because I mean, they all came together for one big thing, but it's like they have all separate stories right now. I don't even know if we'll see him, with them. Maybe they come out with him. Who knows? Um, but I feel like we'll get that numbers game that we always love, but it's Solo using it. But Rock just comes out and he says, "I'm disappointed in both of you. No one gets the title of tribal chief right now. That's because I'm the High Chief. I'm running the show now." And then he just disappears again. So picking Solo, and it just continues the bloodline story, the saga, honestly. Chapter, whatever you want to call it, inning 5 or 6 at this point, maybe. you know,
Right.
um, but continue the saga. But I think that just helps launch Roman to, spoiler alert. I've been really thinking about, perfect person to probably win the Rumble is Roman Reigns this year.
Sure.
So spoiler alert, that's why I'm picking for the Royal Rumble. Um, and I think a loss here, a loss really doesn't hurt Roman, and I think that just makes that Rumble win even sweeter. Solo keeps momentum; he's going right here, and we just but we get more drama with the whole bloodline, because like no, we don't have a tribal chief at all, or we just still have both of them be like, no, it's me, no, it's me.
Yeah. No, and that's fair. I honestly probably would believe that more than what I said. Because it's I'm just more thinking from a company perspective of like who they
Yeah,
want to hitch your wagon to more. And even immediately in your story, Solo wins, and you're like, you're not the real tribal chief, you dummy. Like just it's kind of like that makes sense because we all know that Solo's gonna eventually be the number 2. So for me, yeah, no, honestly, I kind of agree with you. To be fair, I feel like it's more likely that Solo would win now that you kind of put it in that frame of reference. Yeah, that makes sense. I actually I fully agree with you. I think I've been convinced. I feel like Solo's probably should win that. To be fair.
cool. Well, before we wrap this up, I'm curious. Do you have any like surprise appearances you want to predict here that might show up that haven't been
Yeah.
announced yet? I mean, they haven't really announced much outside of the other match that they've announced is Jay and Drew, which isn't a surprise, because Drew's kind of on his war path right now to take out everybody in the bloodline. So we really only have 4 announced matches. I'm sure we'll get more. Hopefully some fun tag matches or whatever. But do you have any like legends or call ups that you want to kind of predict here?
Yeah. So the first big one is Penta. I think Penta's gonna show up. I believe last Monday, Rey Mysterio said he needed a tag team partner to face the New Day. That's an easy one. Shove Penta. They're both from Mexico. Kind of gives Rey Mysterio's from California, but it's fine. So yeah, works out. Just throw Penta in there. That ought to be fun. And I think very quickly Penta turns the LWO against Rey Mysterio. I think that happens quite quick. Because please do anything else with the LWO other than have them all kiss Rey Mysterio on the back of the head every week and say we love you. Like, please, anything else?
Yeah. When was
There's
the
nothing
last time
wrong
they
with
all had a
that.
match?
There's nothing wrong with doing that because it's Rey Mysterio, but also it's been like 2 years since you started doing that, and it's still happening. Please
Yeah.
make it stop.
Well,
Anything else?
what happened with Dragon Lee? 'Cause I thought Dragon Lee is he hurt again, or did I miss something there?
No, I think he's still there. I saw him a couple weeks ago. He may be hurt now. I'm not 100%
Okay,
sure, but
because I know him and
um,
Ray have tagged a little bit before, but I don't know if they're kind of
yeah,
gone
but
their separate ways.
I think it was more like I have a surprise for you, like I have
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
surprise tag team partner that you're gonna have to wait to see. you know,
yeah.
um,
And
and
because
yeah,
Penta, sorry, I'm gonna derail you again because Penta's
that's
been
fine.
a few different places, right? I know most recently in
Oh man.
AEW, but I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not as familiar with him as most others probably are.
Yeah, so Penta is a vet. He's I think 41, 42 years old. He's up there in age. Should have been in WWE a long time ago, but obviously with the old regime, none of us got things that we liked ever. So
Ever.
I would say maybe not most famously probably just from AEW, just because AEW's reached more eyeballs because of TV. But I knew him at first. I first knew about him in Lucha Underground. I don't know if you're familiar with Lucha Underground from years and years and years ago, but he had a lot of really fun matches there. Most famously, I think the best match he's maybe ever had in his career was against Prince Puma, who's Ricochet,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
in a
cool.
mask, basically.
Yeah.
And it was a loser leaves Lucha um, match, or a loser retires match, or whatever. And Ricochet, oh gosh, I forget who won that match now. It's been so long since I've seen it. Now I'm blanking on who won that. I'm pretty sure Penta won that match. I'm pretty sure, but I don't remember. I don't know. Forget it. But regardless, it was the best match of his career that he's had. It was fantastic. 10 out of 10. Um, yes, but most recently in AEW for sure. He's gonna have to change his finisher, because his finisher is literally a package pile driver, which is what Kevin Owens has been using to murder people for the last 3 weeks. So it's kind of awkward if Penta just shows up and just starts doing that to everyone, and then they just all show up the next week. Like, it's going to be awkward. So he's probably just going to go back to the Penta driver, which is a really cool move where he, like, gut wrench and then lifts up and then spins you here and then slams you. It's pretty cool. But yeah, he's awesome. He has a really unique look. He's got, like, the white kind of painted eyes with, like, black stuff
Okay.
here, and he's
Okay.
got a big dark mask, um and it's not always dark. He wears red or blue or black or green, and he wears
Right.
all different colors. But he's really, really awesome. I would urge you, if you're not familiar with him, just look up like some entrances of his. Look up a little, maybe watch a few minutes of him wrestle. He's great. He's a little on the older side now, so he's not quite the athlete he used to be in terms of springboards and high flying stuff like he used to. But he's excellent. I hope his brother Ray Phoenix gets set free from AEW soon, because I'd love to see the Lucha Bros in WWE. Um, most of his best matches have been tag team matches with his brother,
Okay.
against like the Young Bucks or against the Briscoe brothers or
Mm-hmm.
against, insert fantastic tag team name here. That's who you're probably gonna want to watch.
Gotcha.
So as a singles guy, he's had great matches. It's been a lot of fun, but he's more to me of a tag team wrestler, with his brother. And so if they could both get over here, you got one of the greatest tag teams of all time.
Cool.
So that's give you a little bit of
So,
a
sounds like that's a
historical
dream
rundown.
matchup between them and Motor City Machine Guns then.
For sure, yeah. And I don't know if they've ever faced each other off the top of my head, because I'm trying to think of how long the Lucha Brothers were in TNA and if that ever correlated with
Ah,
the Miller City Machine Guns being in TNA. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. But
cool. Cool.
I don't recall them wrestling each other off the top of my head. They probably have somewhere, because both of them have been all over the place. By the way, fun fact, I completely missed this because this was right around the time that I stopped watching NXT for like 6 months. Alex Shelley of the Motor City Machine Guns had 3 matches in NXT at one point. He was in NXT. I forget who he was teaming with, but he was in a tag. It wasn't Chris Sabin. He just showed up as like a mystery tag team partner a few times for people. Like 3 weeks in a row, he was in matches on NXT, and then he never was on NXT again. They just brought him in for like a couple of matches. And I was like, what? Like, I had no idea that had happened. But fun fact, Alex Shelley was in NXT for a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
All right. Well, I derailed you on your
that's okay.
surprises. Who you got? Who else you
Yeah,
got?
well, obviously Penta, as we talked about. I think Joe Hendry would be somebody that I would enjoy seeing. He just recently won NXT Moment of the Year, and he said on air, just so you know, say his name means anytime, anywhere, on any show. So it's possible. Now
Writes itself.
I more think that's gonna be Royal Rumble. He's probably just going to show up at the Rumble and get a big pop, and cut a nice promo, and then get eliminated fairly quickly. That's probably what'll happen. But if that happens, I'll be happy. But he also could show up on the 6th as well. I think Charlotte Flair will come back on the 6th as well. I think The Rock will come back. I think there's a lot of different ones, and I also think we'll probably see some legends like Stone Cold, Undertaker. Like you'll get a good amount of historic players coming back and helping out a little bit, just some backstage stuff maybe, or I assume Triple H will probably open the show. Either him or Cena, obviously, will open the show. There's no other way that
I predicted Cena.
I also predicted Cena. So
that's right. We both did. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, we both did that. So it's either Triple H is going to come out and say, "Welcome to Monday Night Raw,"
Are you ready?
Oh yeah, it's going to be one of them, or it's.
Are you ready?
Okay. Just nothing but
I'm cutting that out.
Groaning and moaning. Oh goodness, I'm sorry. Okay, but yeah, I think that there's gonna be it's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be either John Cena or Triple H that opens the show. So I think you're gonna have a spattering of legends throughout. Maybe a Ric Flair, who knows? I don't know. Maybe a Bret Hart, maybe a Shawn Michaels, maybe a whoever. Right? You just throw whoever you want in there. It's gonna be crazy. But I think put my money on Penta for sure. If Penta doesn't show up, I'm gonna be very upset. If it's just like, hey, it's Dragon Lee, I'd be like, sorry, Dragon Lee, but I don't want you right now.
Go back to NXT.
I like your situation that you talked about with The Rock coming back. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I also think, based on what I said, I think Rhea will win and Charlotte will come out immediately and get in her face. That'll be the next feud. Because I think Andrade will probably move to Raw in this transfer window, because there is no point in him being on SmackDown right now. He is just being fed the same exact people and losing over and over again. There's no point. Just bring him to Raw and let him have some new things. So I think that's probably what'll happen. So those will be the three. I'll say Penta, The Rock, and Charlotte.
Okay. If I'm gonna put you on the spot again, if you had to call someone up from NXT, who'd you call up from NXT for this episode? And not necessarily. It wouldn't have to necessarily be a keep on the roster, on the main roster, or on the Raw roster, or I don't even want to say main roster anymore because NXT the way it's growing. But they're a true NXT call up.
Yeah. A true NXT call up. I would say Roxanne Perez. If I had to pick one, I think she's great. I think her NXT Women's Championship reign is going to be coming to an end at New Year's Evil. To Julia, I think this is where you put it on Julia. The NXT's women's division is the best women's division in all of wrestling right now. I don't even know if it's particularly close, although the AEW women have really, really stepped up the last couple of months for sure. But I think if I had to pick one person to get called up, you're looking at Roxanne Perez, because I feel like she could be called up and then lose the title in a couple of weeks and then just stay on Raw or stay on SmackDown or wherever she's going to go. Mm-hmm. So that would be the one that I would pick.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see if they do NXT call-ups. I feel like you said, the women's roster, not that it's necessarily bad at the main level right now, on Raw or SmackDown, but I feel like you could, especially since there's two brand new titles now, if you can spread out
and 2 more hours of show.
Yeah, if you can spread out the level a little bit of the roster, I think some people from the women's roster, but I just didn't have any particular names, so that's why I wanted to put you on the spot there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, they just had a 10 women tag match to main event a pay-per-view in NXT. A 10 women tag match to main event a pay-per-view, and every single one of them were credible enough that all of us went, yeah, all right. Like, that's bananas. Like, that hasn't happened.
Crazy.
That hasn't happened since you had, like, Bayley, Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Ember Moon, Asuka. Like, all them
Yep.
down at the same time. Shayna Baszler, like, you had them all at the same time. Like, that's
Hmm.
like, it's bananas how deep that women's roster is.
Yeah.
And you're not even talking like Kalani Jordan and Lola Vice and Sol Ruka, and I mean the list just goes on and on and on and on and on. I could sit here for hours. That women's
Yeah.
division is crazy deep, and it's gonna start getting less deep because they're gonna have to start calling up women.
Yeah.
And it also makes me more mad that Kiana James is just sitting on Raw doing a whole lot of nothing right now, because I
I
actually
think
think
she's
she could
hurt.
be a former Oh, is she hurt? Oh,
I
that
think
makes
so.
sense. Okay.
And
I was, I was
literally
like,
the only reason I
oh.
know that is because I was looking through the roster when we were working on it, when I was working on some John Cena booking stuff, and I came across that name. I'm like, who's that? And then I was like, they had a little injury asterisk on the side. I was like, oh, but didn't have any information, so
Okay.
I can't tell
All
you why
right.
she's
Well, if
hurt.
she's hurt, then that's different. Obviously, but I know she had like one. I think it was like a Money in the Bank qualifier or
Yeah,
Queen
because
of the Ring qualifier.
wasn't she drafted to Raw at the draft?
Yeah, she was drafted to Raw and then had one match and that was it. And I'm like, why would you even
Yeah,
bother? But if she got hurt during that match, then that's a whole different conversation.
yeah,
So that's fair. But yeah,
yeah. I'm with you in some of the legends for press appearances. I'd even throw out names like JBL, Teddy Long. I feel like Teddy Long just has to be on there because I mean he's always on every
tag
like
player.
yeah let him introduce the tag match between the New Day and Ray and Penta, and he's done his token tag team thing, just
I would
another
love to see
impression one way.
I would love to see Penta just show up as Dark Penta. He's just like more demonic, and he just stares at Teddy Long, and Teddy's like, "I just wet my pants." Like, because Penta also has a dark personality. It's dark Penta dark,
Okay.
and so like he's like comes he did it in AEW once. Penta Oscuro is what they called it in AEW, because I think that also means dark in Oscuro. I think is dark in Spanish. I'm not sure, but like he there was a tombstone on the stage and you just saw a hand and then another hand and he just pulls himself up out of the thing and he just looks psychotic and it's like, oh god, it's so good. It's so good, dude. You got to watch that entrance when we're done recording here, but yeah. So like that's just like me being a psycho and wanting to see somebody like cry out of fear. That'd be great. But
Man,
please don't debut Penta as that, because then all the kids are going to be terrified of him, and he's actually really awesome to watch just in his like normal state of not psycho. Um,
well, you saying that already makes me want him and Demon Balor back in a
yeah, sure,
match.
that'd be great. That would be a lot of fun. Book it, folks.
Ray Don.
That'd be great.
Yes, but yeah, I'll throw out names like JBL, maybe even DDP. Saturday Night Main Event had Jesse Ventura, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get something from him at all. They've been really making a big to do about like making sure a lot of these um, vets, pioneers have been getting these legend contracts. I will say one legend I don't want to see personally is Ric Flair, and part of that might be because I saw him just the end of his career and not for the great matches that he's had, and so I've never
Yeah,
really is this never never struck my personal taste.
sure.
So that's what that is. I don't think we're gonna get Charlotte back. I think we'll get Becky back though. Or
Okay.
it could be both. But I would lean more towards Becky right now. With Charlotte being more of a Rumble, but who knows? Again, could get both. Um, then that's kind of why I put kind of Rhea. I think getting pushed to SmackDown. Because needs some help. Just people get moved around. I had one other that I thought of. From the NXT side again too. Like, part of me is kind of like it'd be easy to say, call up Trick or call up. No, not even Trick. Like Spears or oh man, I'm so horrible on names already. Because it was Spears, Trick, Javon, and someone else in the Fatal 4-Way a few months ago.
Ethan Page.
Page, yeah. I
Oh,
kind of wonder if
yeah.
like Page or Spears could be pulled up or whatever too, but I feel like the Raw and SmackDown rosters need more of the women call-ups than the men call-ups right now, unless SmackDown brings a few guys from NXT,
Sure.
But that's kind of where I'm thinking there. I think this is gonna be a load of fun. It's just, yeah, I can't wait for it. It's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, we didn't even talk about Shotzi's back in NXT. Or not Kiana James. Katana Chance and Caden Carter are back in NXT now.
Interesting.
So it's like, good lord, like it's
Shotzi's she's back from her injury then?
Yep, she just returned a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay,
now she's
cool.
She teamed with Gigi Nolan and somebody else. I can't remember who.
Gotcha.
The other.
So they consider them on the NXT roster now, not because I
believe so. Yeah, I believe
okay.
so. I'd have to look at the official roster page, but I think I remember when I was going through doing my bookings that I saw either they had both Raw and NXT logos next to them, or they just had the NXT logo next to them. But I know that there was NXT in there somewhere.
Okay. Cool.
So they may go back and forth. I don't know.
Right.
But
right.
they've been in NXT a couple of times the last couple of weeks. So.
Gotcha. Well, any final thoughts on this on Raw's debut on Netflix? Again, I can't wait for it.
Well, if this isn't the best Raw in history, I'm going to be shocked. Not even sad. Like, I won't even be disappointed. I will just be shocked simply because of how much is going to happen. And this isn't like the Vince era where, like, the 25th anniversary of Raw is, like, supposed to be super hyped, but then it's like, oh, DX is beating up all the new tag teams and making them look stupid. Yay. Woohoo. Oh, the Undertaker just chokeslammed a 24-year-old.
No.
Oh boy! Like
we're gonna get actual story. We're gonna actually get story beats of concurrent stories right now. We're not just gonna be like, oh, here's a fun one-off thing. Outside of maybe CM Punk, but again, it's still a storyline.
The only time that they did anything like that was when Triple H had just taken over. They did. I forget if it was like Raw's 30th anniversary or something, where DX came out. And then Imperium came out, and Imperium was basically like, listen, if you want us to leave, you're just going to have to do something about it. Whereas in Vince, Shawn Michaels would have super kicked Gunther, and then Triple H would have pedigreed Gunther, and they'd be like, yeah, we're all 70, and we beat the best wrestler on planet Earth. Whee! Instead, they were all like, I don't want to fight him. That guy's a monster. I'm not going to get anyone. Like, perfect.
I remember that now. Yep.
Like, that's the only time they did it, and they were like, I'm not fighting him. And then Kurt Angle's like, I'm too old. Nope, I can't do it. Like, and that was great because they were like, that made sense. Like, who would want to fight that guy willingly? Like, that's the whole. But that made sense, right? And it's just that little adjustment of like, instead of us kicking you in the teeth, we'll have all these young guys come out and kick you in the teeth, and then we'll leave, and it'll be a match, and not us, beating you up because we can. Like that's perfect. So it's not going to be like that. And so therefore, with all the legends and all the returns possibly, and all the new guys possibly, and all the great matches definitely that we're going to see, if this isn't the best Raw in history, not that I'm going to be disappointed, but I am going to be pretty surprised.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I can't wait. So obviously, we'll close out here. Appreciate everybody watching this episode. Thanks for sticking around. Let us know what your thoughts are on the matches. Liv and Rhea, Seth and Punk. We talked about the Tribal Chief Showdown. Jay and Drew are happening. Maybe a couple tag matches. Again, the anticipation is so high. We can't wait. Hope you guys are going to enjoy it too. So again, let us know your thoughts. Give the video a like. Subscribe. Let us know your thoughts. Again, Tyler, thanks for joining us. And we'll catch you guys later.